Hi, I don't know about you, but I've been locked down since March and it's now the 7th of December. So I thought it'd be nice to get out into the wild. So I've come out to a bit of forest. And it's just nice to be among the trees and it's damp. It's one of those kinds of days where it starts off misty and then it just stays misty and then it gets dark. Damp, sort of misty and dark. But you know what? At least it's fresh air. I want to talk about back to basics. And so I'm going to talk about 5 reasons why panic, anxiety and depression are unnecessary. And the first one is this: you have a brilliant imagination, and really anxiety and depression and panic are products of your imagination. Now I'm standing out here basically it's not really wilderness, but I'm in a forest, okay, so it's nice, it's wild, right? And this is external reality. Your anxiety, your panic, your depression are products of your internal reality. And so they're actually artifacts of the complexity of your brain. They're not something that you therefore need to experience. And so if this tree was to fall down and hit me on the head, I need to experience that and I will feel that because it's tangible. But depression, anxiety and panic, they're intangible. They're not things that you actually need to experience, but unless you realise that, unless you recognise that, you kind of have no choice. You're probably stuck with it. The second reason is this: that panic, anxiety, depression, they're fake news. Now, a lot of people believe fake news, and you might be a person who believes some aspects of fake news. It's extremely common. But the thing is, fake news is fake. It's a distortion. In cognitive psychology, we call this faulty thinking. It's a distortion of facts. It's a partial use of facts. It's not actually true. Now here's the thing about fake news. Fake news always makes you feel threatened, it makes you feel at risk, and it makes you feel somewhat vulnerable. That's the job of fake news, in a sense, to make you feel frightened so that then you'll follow some instruction of a strong leader or whatever you like. But internal fake news, right? It tells you stuff that's not true. If you're depressed, you are always going to underestimate your strengths and resources. You're always going to underestimate yourself as a person. And you're going to always overestimate the things that you've done wrong, the mistakes you've made, the things that you didn't do, the opportunities that you let go. You're always going to overestimate the importance of those. And if you're struggling with anxiety, and panic just being the pinnacle of anxiety, panic's just an extreme form of anxiety in a way. If you're struggling with anxiety, you're always going to overestimate the extent to which you're actually at risk. Now, let me spell it out for you really, really clearly, right? If you're anxious, you feel at risk. Now you might say, well, I don't feel at risk, I'm just anxious. Yeah, okay. You have to be at risk. You have to feel at risk. You have to feel vulnerable. You have to feel as if something's going to happen to you for the physiology of anxiety to get going. Otherwise, you'd just be calm and relaxed. There is no evolutionary advantage for you to feel anxious if you're not, or if you don't perceive yourself being at some risk. The thing is, the anxiety provoking system, like the emotion of fear and the physiology of fear, it's all absolutely normal. It's essential for survival. If you could not feel fear, you would not, your ancestors would have not survived, and you probably wouldn't survive. There are some people who are born without the ability to feel fear, and they don't live very long because they tend to be, they tend to put themselves in risky situations and get injured. So feeling fear is not a problem. Being anxious is a problem because, in fact, you do not have a threat that is actually a real threat. What you have is a threat in your internal reality. So, in a sense, your brain has created a threat. Now, that's fine. Your brain is very good at creating imagined realities. The thing is, if they don't work for us, but yet we don't recognize it's an imagined reality, we're basically trapped, we're stuck with it. So, the third reason that panic, anxiety, depression, stress, etc. they're unnecessary is that they become self-fulfilling prophecies. And by that I mean that they come to fulfill themselves. So for instance, if your depression was to say that you're not able to do stuff and that you just you weren't comfortable being in public settings because you didn't feel good enough about yourself, you would tend to stay in, you tend to avoid things, you tend to want to run away and hide, and that then makes you feel a little bit less uncomfortable But that process of avoiding, of running away, of hiding, of escaping, that actually makes the validity of the depressing thoughts seem more intense, more accurate, right? Well, I didn't do it because I didn't feel I could do it, and actually I feel a bit better not doing it. So the next time I try to do it, it'll be even easier for me not to do it. Likewise with anxiety. You can avoid doing things because they make you feel anxious, but the next time you try to do it, you'll only feel more anxious or less inclined to do it. And so they kind of roll you down a path. It's like the path of least resistance, or the boulder rolling downhill. They roll you down towards feeling less able, less confident, and really in a way, less capable of doing the things that you need to do to have a fulfilling and kind of useful life. So number 3 is that they're self-fulfilling prophecies. Number 4 is that the strong emotions associated with anxiety and depression have a tendency to trap you and to bend your reality. Now, recall there are 2 realities: the external reality and internal reality. And anxiety and depression are internal reality problems, but they create emotions, and these emotions are very strong, and they kind of capture you, and then they trap you. And if you're trapped in emotions, then it's really hard to step out of that experience of being enveloped by the emotion. So for instance, if you are trapped feeling depressed or down, with the emotion of feeling like not good enough, sad, unable, unmotivated, unwilling to push out, that emotion has got you enveloped. It's like being in a tent, a dome tent of emotion, and it kind of weighs you down and it feels difficult. Likewise, if you're enveloped in the emotion of anxiety, you're going to feel extremely unwilling and even unable to push out of that and to challenge yourself, because it feels like it's too risky. So that's the point, right? It feels like it's too risky, but it's not. The risk that you have is no different from the risk anybody else has. Yeah, but it feels too risky. Yeah, but it's not. So I've known people who are frightened of walking on the pavement. Just walking on the general pavement feels too frightening. Yeah, but millions of people walk on the pavement every day. It's actually not too frightening to walk on the pavement. Yeah, but it feels too frightening because you're trapped in the emotion of anxiety. So number 4, the emotions of anxiety and depression trap you, and they make it hard for you to see outside of those, so you can see that actually in reality you have lots more possibilities than you would believe. And number 5, anxiety and depression keep you stuck. Now, the truth is that everything changes. So right now, it's the 7th of December. I don't think it's quite winter yet, but there are basically no leaves left really on the trees that shed their leaves, just a few. Okay, so that's change. That's the natural order of change. The leaves will drop off, and in the spring the leaves will grow back again. But anxiety and depression, they deny you the possibility of change. And the way they do that is they make you very internal and less external. Again, the 2 realities, right? External reality and internal reality. Anxiety and depression make you more internal than other people who are not anxious and depressed. So regular folks who are not anxious and depressed will be more connected, let's say, with external reality, and therefore they'll be doing more things, and they'll be responding to the changing environment of the world. But when you're more internal, more interior, you're less open to the possibility of change. And furthermore, anxiety and depression will tell you that you can't change, you can't engage, you can't do stuff, you can't do the things that you want to do. So when I've worked with people, and I've worked with hundreds upon hundreds of people who've had clinical anxiety and clinical depression, there's always a quality of stuckness. In fact, I'd go so far as to say almost nobody contacts me unless they feel stuck. It's kind of one of the requirements, in the sense of seeking out psychological therapy, because if you didn't feel stuck, you'd still feel that you've got some movement. But when you feel stuck, it's like you've got no movement, right? 1 year is the same as the year before, is the same as the next year. You're just not feeling like you're moving forward. And that's a really horrible feeling. Stuck, I think, is one of the worst feelings there is. So those are the five that I've picked, anyway, reasons why anxiety and depression are unnecessary. So I'm going to call this wild psychology, because I'm out in the forest. And it's nice actually to connect with external reality. Sometimes when I get people to, there's attempts to get people to connect with external reality, I say to them, okay, go for a walk, find me 5 different fungi that you can see, or find me 5 different things on the beach, or find me 5 different trees or 5 different leaves. Just connect your attention to the external world, so that the external world is kind of pulling you out of being trapped internally, and just making you smell the air, feel the cold, touch the things, notice the texture. I've broken that off. Notice the smell, notice the taste. Just connect yourself to the external world, and anything like that pulls you out of the internal world. And if you can get far enough out of that internal world, then you can start to see the possibility for change. I hope you found this interesting. This is the first one of my, I'm going to call them wild psychology videos. Please leave comments, please subscribe, and give me a thumbs up or a like if you found it useful. Thanks for taking the time to watch and listen.